Hello and welcome to an episode of This Week in X, where we are here to talk about brand new X-Men comic books. And in this episode, that comic book is Sword, issue number 3, that was out on the 10th of February, 2021. Here is your warning. We're going to talk about everything in this comic, and especially because it's so focused on one character, we're going to probably talk a lot about his history, I would imagine. So this is a full spoilers broadcast, and you have been duly notified. For Sword number 3, we're going to begin, as we always do, with our lightning round of reactions before we dig in deeply to the issue, starting with Tyler.
I enjoy the character spotlight on Manifold, and it kind of expanded my knowledge of his powers. I'm not 100% sure if this is a retcon or something that was hinted at before. On the art front, even though we have like 4 different artists on this issue, it is not really that jarring to me. They all seems to complement each other quite well. And, you know, even Ewin is sadded with this now tie-in thing. This still manages to give us a Krakoan story, so to speak. I'm giving it a 3.75 eye hole out of 5.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Harry, what is your initial reaction on this one?
I definitely like this issue more than the last because this is not really that involved with King in Black so much as has characters dealing with other characters who are in the shadow of the event, but it's not really going head on against the space dragons. I like Manifold a lot. I have since his time in Secret Warriors and definitely so in Avengers. So I was hoping a lot from this issue. It didn't quite reach that for me. I agree with Tyler that the art, the art was from different artists, of course, but like it didn't really bother me that much. They were all pretty much of a type. I enjoyed kind of learning more about Snark War, which is just a great thing to say. And yeah, I think the ending scene and dealing with a certain shady human character was a great time. And I actually not gasped, but my eyebrows were raised at the developments in that scene. So I would give it 3.5 space eye holes out of 5. And I know Tyler did that too, but whatever.
Fariha, what did you take from this issue? Especially because, let's say, Manifold is a very Jonathan Hickman character, so you are well acquainted with Manifold.
Yeah. I mean, he's created by my future husband, Jonathan Hickman. So, you know, I'm obviously have a different connection to this character. But the thing is, the way his power was explained is the most Jonathan Hickman-y power explanation I've ever seen. And I'm like, of course, a character created by him. He would never create a character who can just teleport. He has like this. Anyway, we'll get into that. The thing is, it's news to me that there were 4 different artists because my eyeballs did not pick that up. And I did not, of course, check the artist credit because I suck at those things. But anyway, so compared to that, I really enjoyed it because this is kind of what a tie-in should be for me. Like, you know, if it's like something else is going on and then, you know, because it's not... So like whatever is happening, it's explained just enough, but it's doing its own thing. And then there's a lot of different things going on. So based on all of that, I will say it was a 4 out of 5 for me.
For me, I think I'm struggling a little bit with Sword because I was expecting one sort of a mutant title and I'm kind of getting something different. I think I was really enamored with the idea of this big cast in the first issue. And then the second issue was very waylaid by the King in Black. And then this issue is a deep character focus, but I still don't feel like I really understand what this book is about, even though we get a little bit of that through this and Manifold's journeys. So I just kind of feel disconnected. Like I can't tell if it's a good issue because I don't know what it's supposed to be. So I'm just like a little cooler on it than the rest of you. Also, I kind of liked that Manifold was a mutant outside of the mutant control. I really liked that he was on Black Panther. So I really love that he's getting attention here, especially from Ewing of anybody. But also part of me is like, oh, I guess he's going to have to be an X-Men now. So I don't know. It's just not, I don't dislike it, but it's just not like ringing my bell quite as much. And I absolutely noticed the artist difference. And it took me out of it a couple times, but they were strong showings from all 4 of them. So I don't think at any point it was a negative. It just kind of like was like refocusing your eyes a little bit for.
Yeah.
now that we've gotten our initial reactions out of the way, I want to start digging in a little bit deeper. And I think the place we have to start, because we all mentioned it, is this slight but significant redefinition of Manifold and what he does. So we've always known that he is Aboriginal Australian. We've always known that Gateway is a mentor of his, and we always known that he folds space in some way. But Ewing gives us an extra dimension on that here, and we not only get people telling us that, but we kind of see it visually in how he moves through space and possibly dimensions here in this issue. And I want to kind of start with Fariha first, because it is very Jonathan Hickman, and Ewing's clearly in close what is the word I'm looking for? Cooperation with him. So yeah, they're closely collaborating. And so do you think this was kind of Hickman's intent all along? Do you think Ewing is layering something new in here? How did you read that slight redefinition?
So, I mean, I don't know whose idea it was, because I have to give credit to Ewing, because
we don't
he is
know.
writing it.
Yeah,
we don't know. But the thing is, I think this was also, Ewing must have seen, what is that movie by Christopher Nolan, Interstellar, because Interstellar actually explains this power. Interstellar actually says how this power works, and it is word for word pretty much that power that he has now. So in Interstellar, they show, that's what I was trying to hold on. They actually show that you have a paper, and then you fold the paper, you have point A and point B, and then you fold the paper. Now point A and point B are together, and you can go through it. So that's his power now, and it's from Interstellar.
But what's interesting is that's his power, and he doesn't tell the universe to do that.
Yeah.
He asks the universe.
That's the difference. He's asking the universe to do that, and the universe apparently listens to him.
I'm always very confused when it comes to cosmic beings. So does that mean he's talking to eternity?
I'd look at more as him just communicating with this force he can't quite define or almost understand, because it's too big, but it will respond to him, and it's something just kind of undefined but grander, because you're not quite sure what it is you're communicating with.
I think in one of Hickman's run, either Secret Wars or in his Avengers run, there was an alternate universe Manifold, which
Avengers.
brought over the Black Swan, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that and I think it mentions that Manifold's power doesn't work in 616.
That's correct. Yeah, each Manifold.
So they're attuned to their own space. Yeah.
So I think this.
Now we can have Manifold Core then.
You can.
After Britain Core, we can now have Manifold Core.
I would read that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, but that means that he can only speaks to this universe, and maybe he can speak to other universes as well, but the other universes just don't respond to him because he's not native to that universe. So that's something to consider as well, right?
It's really interesting thinking about, as to all of your points, mutants with powers that are so much bigger than just the Earth. The other mutant who has a teleportation power like this, of course, is Lila Cheney. And even reading about her back in the day, you're kind of like, wow, this is wild. All of these other mutants are just palling around doing stuff on Earth, and Lila Cheney's a teleporter who can only teleport, interstellar distances. Yeah. So if she wants to teleport down the block, she's got to teleport to Alpha Centauri first, and then back down the block. Much how magic goes through limbo, and so it's part of it. But it's interesting to think about the idea of what mutant has a power that almost supersedes the scale of the planet that they're on, and the meaning of that. The other thing I want to talk about, we're getting, there's three conversations basically. This whole issue is the idea of three conversations that Manifold partakes in or listens in on in one case. And before we get to the two with kind of bigger impact, this first one is really interesting to me. He stops by to talk to his elders, one of whom is his uncle. They're talking a lot about his relationship with Gatefold, who is of course a core character in the Gateway, who's of course a core character in the Outback era of Claremont. And it's really interesting because two things are happening in this conversation. One is Jung is kind of explaining where he's been in Black Panther because he's been a part of Ta-Nehisi Coates' interstellar Black Panther run, and he is made to do some terrible things as part of, he's kind of like brainwashed and fit into the role of a different person that already exists in a mythological way is the best shorthand that I can give you. And so he's confessing here, he's done some stuff, but it's also the idea of the people that are connected to him, his family, his land, are also showing some skepticism for this other group that he's also a part of, which is mutants, which is, I know, a theme that comes up a lot with us because we get into immigrant chat and this idea of kind of like code switching and being a part of two different groups. And so I just think there's a lot of interesting material in this brief family scene. Tyler, is there anything in here that you really think is worth commenting on?
They ground him to Earth by introducing his family and his elders that he actually visited before he went away. So that sort of, to me, I think that is the connection to Earth, because like we just discussed, his powers transcends Earth. Right. So there is no reason for him to stay on Earth if he chose to say, oh, I'm going to spend some time in Shi'ar space, you know. He can just basically ask the universe kindly and just take one small step and he's in Shi'ar. So there's no reason for him to stay on Earth. But here with these two elders, with this grounding, again, I think it brings back the concept of family. Even though this is not his Krakoan family, he does have family, he does have ties to Earth. And that is why he remains here, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Harry?
That all also makes him, just on a emotional level, makes him more relatable and human, because you do have this character who's kind of like almost cosmically powered, or definitely that, where he can travel anywhere and can like operate on a scale beyond anybody else. So it is nice that you have the scene where he's talking with his family and trying to convince them that he's not in with a rough crowd or a sketchy crowd. It just gets kind of like, you know, it functionally made sense that that's what you kind of lead off with, just so you understand this guy a little bit better before he goes off and talks to space lizards and all that. But like, it was pretty good. I honestly thought the art was the most noticeably different in this segment, which kind of took me out a little bit. Like, he looks like Manifold's face is different, drawn differently than in the rest of the book. But it's not that it's bad. It's just, it's a little disconcerting. But yeah, it was like a good lead off, I felt.
Fariha?
I don't think we ever seen his Australian family ever. Like, he was, since the very beginning, he was always either with the Secret Warriors or with the Avengers. Like, you know, pretty much what he says, like, oh, I don't talk to Iron Man anymore. I only talk to Black Panther as the Avengers. And now he's like with the Krakoan society and everything. So this kind of was nice. I was a little bit kind of like confused by the two characters we were talking to, whether they're also indigenous or not, because they looked like Caucasian. so that's why I was a little confused by that at first, that, you know, that whether that's his adopted family or something. But at the end of the day, it was just kind of like a very nice touch, I think. Like, you know, just to, like, we see another side of him that we haven't seen before.
Well, and he also gave Ewin a chance to say that, hey, you know, Australians love the X-Men. It's a callback to the Outback era, basically. I think.
Okay.
I like that. Yeah.
Like, it's also kind of nice to see, because I always kind of is like, about like whenever like a mutant family rejects them for being mutant. But this was very nice from that point of view, that it's like, he's a mutant and they're like, yay, mate, go have fun in Krakoa. Like, you know, so
he has a very
super nice.
Sorry, I was going to say, he has a very emotionally stable situation, it seems. Like, he's doing great.
And that's why he can probably, like, you know, talk nicely to universe. He doesn't even have to scream at the universe. Yeah. Because he had such a stable upbringing. He's just happy from the get-go. So, you know. And it also kind of does a very good job of, like, you know, giving you, because we keep talking about the characters we don't know anything about. So this does a very good job of summarizing it.
Yeah.
And I would say too, isn't this somewhat unique in this whole Dawn of X, Reign of X era, to see a mutant who kind of stops off elsewhere, even though they acknowledge they're part of this Krakoan machine. In Brazan's New Mutants, of course, we spent some time with Angel and Beak and their family, but they were primarily aligned with their family. I said Beak, so Free's going to make faces. But here we have somebody who, to all of your point, he stops there first. Like he's on a mission ostensibly, and he still makes the time to check in, which is just something really unique in this Krakoan era. And I think it also says something really unique about his character, which we didn't have already. So it's only a couple of pages, but I think it's really smart of viewing. And I think it immediately attunes us to him in a really different way than we have to every other X-Men character. I also really, really zeroed in on that end bit about respect this sacred land being one of the laws, and his uncles say they still had to make it a law. I want to move on now to the second portion of his 3 conversations, which is the snark war portion of the conversation. And Ewing makes sure to bring a lot of receipts in the form of conversation and data pages here to remind us of how snark war works, the rules of snark war, which is basically when one ruler dies, everybody genetically senses it. And until somebody kind of comes out on top, it's the war is on. And so we get Manifold here meeting with, if I'm not reading the odds incorrectly, the person who's already the odds-on favor to win. And Manifold is looking to really just pile the odds increasingly in his favor, and he offers him 2 mutants. Although there's a catch, the Snarks are going to take their powers, but the mutants are fine with that as long as they get killed in the process, because they want to be resurrected without necessarily going through the Crucible. Again, Ewing doing really deft work here.
Such a good moment.
Themes.
Without even having to mention any of those things.
Right.
Yeah.
He didn't mention resurrection. He didn't mention Crucible. So anyone who actually read the whole Docs and the Rocks line know exactly what he meant. That was really deft, writing there.
It's the best part of the issue. It's just like, yeah, don't worry about it. They might die. Whatever. Let's just keep it moving.
Yeah. It's not important to you.
So to that point, who are these people?
Did you not read Captain America Annual 4? The one by Jack Kirby?
Oh my god! It's from there?
Tyler tried to get us to read it, and one of us did.
I actually read it once, and then I refused to read it for our reading because it was so boring.
You're missing moments like this because you didn't read it, and now Tyler's heart is broken.
Because I'm like, who on earth? I'm like, yeah, you can kill them and we don't have to even bring them back. No one will miss them.
Your names are Burner and Lifter. I mean, this is from the point in mutant culture where you just picked the verb of what you did and you just said, I'm the one who I'm Burner, I'm Lifter, like that was the level of sophistication.
I mean, I'm not super familiar with them, so I actually went to read up to do some research on them. It seems that they do appear in other comics, not X related, which is why I kind of like, I've never met these people, except for like Captain America Annual 4 is where they did where they first appeared.
Well, congrats. Now you're the world's foremost expert on Burner and Lifter. So you got that going for you.
But the interesting thing I think here, and we're kind of just all jumping in here, is Manifold thinks he has this great offer. He thinks he's, whether Brand gave it to him or he cooked it up on his own, they really think he's going to take it. And the Snark is like, oh no, we're happy with this null situation, which I was shocked. Yeah. I did not expect the conversation to go in that direction. I don't know, Fariha, was that a shocker to you?
Oh, yeah. I was like, whoa. And this is something, by the way, this is a pure cosmic drama, because every Marvel cosmic story has this kind of thing. Someone offers someone something, and then the other person's like, please, child, I have a better offer than that. So it's always kind of worked that way. But the thing is, I was actually...
Sorry, I just want to interject a little bit. Isn't that the definition of snark?
Yeah, true. That's true.
Tyler, MVP of the episode.
Yeah, he was just like being very snarky. No, but I think I was mostly very shocked by the fact that mutants are actually offering them up in this way, and then it's okay, it's sanctioned, and it's just something that they're doing. And then the other thing is like, even then it didn't work. So I'm like, oh no, now Lifter and Burner will probably have to go through Crucible. That's what my mind went. I'm like, who cares about this guy? So, but I thought it was a good twist.
This felt like what I'm hoping this book will be going forward when we're out of like Space Goo land, is like just kind of like dealing with different space factions and races and figuring out what this jerk prince wants to do. And like, so this felt the most comfortable, I guess, for lack of a better term. This felt like, okay, I can kind of see where we're headed if in a few issues time, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I have 2 points to make. Like, the first point is, that's the reason why you do not send a logistic branch to go negotiate. You have a diplomacy and a negotiation branch.
Use that MBA, Tyler. School us.
Yeah.
What is the ideal here?
No, I mean, you have Frenzy, who's in charge of negotiation and diplomacy. Why are you not sending her to do the actual negotiation instead of like this logistic guy? I mean, that's really just my joke about this whole thing. I was wondering, wait, why is Frenzy not there? Then I remember, Frenzy went to Krakoa.
Right, she's stuck
last
inside.
issue, so she's stuck there.
Yeah.
And I mean, the other thing I thought that was interesting is that Manifold actually said, you, Krakoa, and Earth. So he's actually separating Krakoa and Earth. He's not saying you and Earth with an implied including Krakoa. Mm-hmm. So now I think the mutants is seriously thinking of themselves apart from Earth. I think, or at least in Sword. So I thought that was something quite interesting.
Yeah, they've got the dominant space program. Definitely seems like they're branching out in their own way. And it is cool, like moments like that where you're just like, oh, this really is like a complete separate entity in their eyes at the least,
Yeah.
And that was probably the moment that for me too was the most thrilling, not necessarily him offering up the two of them, but this idea that Krakoa is negotiating separately. That's why this book is Sword. It's that, the same way that S.H.I.E.L.D. is like, we'll take care of it on Earth, Sword is like, we'll take care of it in space, but on behalf of mutants, not really on behalf of mutant humans or humanity or the planet Earth as a whole, but kind of mutants saying, we'll take care of it. And it kind of goes with the theme of Manifold having this universal power. It's mutants kind of saying like, none of you other super beings on Earth really have the scope to even be having this conversation, okay? We're the ones who the Phoenix came to first. We're the ones who went into space to do all this other stuff. Let us handle these things.
Yeah.
You just go on and be humans. We're the next step of evolution.
Exactly.
And I don't think any of that had to be said, but it really made me think of like, it definitely connected me back to Powers of X. It definitely made me think about the idea that the remaining mutants in the Powers of X life that we saw the most with Mora were living in space. It definitely kind of connected all of these dots for me. And Ewing never said any of it. That's the beauty of it. It wasn't on a recap page or a data page. We didn't get any connections to House of X and Powers of X until this third conversation, which is a conversation that Manifold entirely listens in on with his special keyhole power. That's
a great moment. That's very fun. It's like peeking through.
It's super, super fun. And when he reaches his arm through the portal and goes, yoink, and takes the... So Henry Peter Gyrich, one of the biggest assholes in all of the Marvel Universe for decades now. The worst.
Yep.
Is on the station and just actively colluding with people who are connected with Orcus to take care of the whole mutant problem within earshot of all these people that he feels like they're all trying to save the world. So I guess I can take this private call in my office right now. I don't know, but it's going to come back to bite him. But, there's just so many implications here. The thing I just want to pull out before I hand it over to Tyler is him saying, if the worst happens, who will be the survivors? Mutants, Gamma mutates, because he's playing a huge role in Hulk at the same time, also by Ewing. Nobody human. Yeah, exactly. Not on our watch. And then he pulls out this Orcus folder. So he's thinking about the same things the mutants are. The mutants are out there negotiating with the Snark War. He's up here trying to get rid of the mutants, layers upon layers. Tyler, what should we be thinking about here?
Pulling out the folder that he was not supposed to print.
Nobody said he was a smart asshole.
Henry.
Well, initially I thought... Sorry.
No, I was saying it didn't have okay to print as Marvel like you to put in their emails. Like, not okay to print.
It's like people who receive an email and it says top secret. Yeah. And the first thing you do is like, hey, assistant, can you just print this email for me? And
I don't know about the three of you, but I'm old enough to have worked with some of those people where, at the point that everything went over to email and I was still in a physical office where some people on their desk would just have this big stack of folders. And I'm like, what's that? And they're like, oh, it's just my emails. And you would hear an email come in and you just see them press print and you realize that they're printing out. If you ever get one of those emails that at the bottom says for the environment, please don't print this out. That's who they're talking about. There are people who still probably 15 years after that are still printing out every email because they just think that's the thing that you do.
That's the thing to do. Is I can read on the screen. That's usually the explanation.
That's what Jared is. This is why he is the asshole. But anyway.
when they have
because initially I actually thought that this is new, but it's actually not new. If you go back to Hawks issue 1, Alpha Flight is part of AUKUS.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the few really direct callbacks to House of X that we've had.
So this is basically linking it, basically say, hey, we mentioned it here. This is the details. So it's no longer. I mean, the question though is this: is only Peter Henry Gyrich part of AUKUS, or is the entire Alpha Flight plus Gamma Flight part of AUKUS?
Well, if he's leading them, I mean, isn't the end effect the same if he's kind of having their resources or their actions kind of back up this this group? I mean, that's kind of, it seems like a big deal. I went when I was reading, I was like, oh, when Orcus showed up, I was like, okay, this is happening. It feels kind of huge. It did to me anyway.
So you get the sense that just because Alpha Flight is part of AUKUS, it doesn't mean all of the superpowered people in Alpha Flight are, because they also don't like Gyrich. And so Gyrich is it's funny, on this chart, he's labeled as being part of the infrastructure and influence. I'm like, well, he's a horrible influencer because everybody hates him.
I know. It's I wouldn't even say they're pro Hulk in that book. They're just anti-Gyrich.
They're just anti him. Yeah.
God. Yeah, he sucks on a unique level.
I was kind of happy to see that it's just a callback to Hawks, all those things, because it just felt like it just disappeared after X-Men 1. We just didn't see this, but hey, it's coming back over here. However, the printout that he had was still redacted, so we didn't actually get much. So I think it's okay for him to print this. He didn't get much. But the thing is, Manifold, man, wait till he drops the phone before you bounce out of there.
I know.
Because he missed the most important part.
Yeah, the most important part, that there is a mole in Sword, and this mole is operating right under Abigail Brand's nose, which...
Hold on. So you guys think that Manifold is not the mole?
No. Why would he be the mole?
No, but then why is he there to look for Peter Henry Gyrich?
Because she asked
in the first
him.
place.
Yeah. Didn't she ask him?
He says crap when he finds out he's Orcus, so he's as surprised as we are.
Yeah,
that's what
I know. I mean, well, Peter Henry Gyrich has a mole in Sword. Does not mean that the mole knows that he's in AUKUS.
Okay,
that's fair, but I don't think it's him.
I don't think it's him.
I didn't think it's him.
So then Manifold is there for a reason, right? Because the first thing he said when he stepped out of his circle thing is that he called for Gyrich. He said, "Hello, anyone here?" So it is definitely meant that he's going there to meet him.
Well, he might just be reporting in that the snark guy rejected him.
Right, that's what I thought. I thought that Sword, Alpha Flight, and them are working on it. That's why he took the thing to Snark guy, saying that, hey, that's why me, Krakoa, and Human, that's why the Krakoa was separate, because it was coming from Sword, you, Krakoa, Sword, and then Earth, Alpha Flight, or these people are going to be solving it. That's what I thought, that he's just bouncing back and reporting everyone. That's how I took it.
So lightning round, folks. Who is the mole? Tyler?
Peepers.
Well, the obvious one would be Fabian Cortex, but
too obvious.
Yeah, it's too obvious.
Yeah.
So my pick will be someone maybe out of the left field, random.
Harry?
Piebok. I don't know. I feel like just a Skrull would be a really left field
Skrull.
pick, where it's just like he's kind of well known, but not that well known in this context. So like you could like overlook him.
You think Peepers?
No, I was just joking.
Oh, okay.
I think, could it be Abigail Brand? Because she just didn't seem to care that much. Like because when he's like, oh my God, Henry Guy Ritchie is doing all this, he's like, yeah, but we have more interest, like, more pressing matters.
Or
so
she
I don't know
knows.
whether that, or either she knows that's one of the reasons, because I don't know, she's always so headstrong, or like, just like, yeah, whatever, I'm not dealing with this right now. So I don't know whether she already knows, or she is going to look into it, or she is the one because she wants off a flight back. So this is, it's not necessarily she's working, but she actually wants to one up Guy Ritchie because she hates Guy Ritchie. So that's what I kind of maybe my prediction, but I don't know.
Interesting.
See, I do think it's Cortez, even though it seems like it would be obvious to have Cortez be the betrayer once again, as he always is. It would be less obvious for him to be aligned with flat scans to betray the mutants, because he's always anti-human, even when he's also anti-human, anti-mutant. So I think that there's I think there's some other kind of mercenary characters in the mix, random, certainly Mentalo, who certainly could be tempted by other things, but I just think that Cortez is always the knife in the back. That's Cortez's job. So
true.
I need Cortez to be the mole.
I mean, the other two things that I kind of want is to mention is that I love the fact that the data page is no longer just data. So now like it has that panels which shows him doing the invisible thing when as it described. Though if you do it too often, I'm not sure how useful the data page is then, because it's now a lot of telling and showing. So but in this case it's slightly different, because this is something which is new, right? His power has never been used that way before. So and then the last thing I kind of want to mention is that I like that the coloring of the data page of the AUKUS protocol is really as if like he has a torchlight shining on it.
Yes.
So it's like it's dark. I mean, there's this like orangey thing on top. So I think the production value of this is actually quite high in that sense.
Well, I actually really like this aspect of the data pages where here's a word I learned from our long lost brother, Zach, diegetic. They're in the story. Like we see the person picking up or handling the thing, and then it's a data page, which is different than in a lot of the books, which use the data pages as sort of moments to fill us in on things that maybe the characters already knew, or something that's happening off panel for the characters. Both of the data pages here are kind of like from that moment in the comic book. And I think that's just really clever. And it's part of what we say, how every writer uses them in a different way. And Ewing is using them in this way that's explicitly diegetic. And I really like it. I think it's really quite charming. And so, Manifold reports back to Brand, and then she's like, okay, well, we've got to get back to Earth. And he comes in on where we left off last issue, which is symbiote cable on Krakoa, with pretty much every cast member of SWORD all tied up and hanging in symbiote cocoons on Krakoa, and also having maybe taken over the central tree of Krakoa. Maybe all of Krakoa is a symbiote, which means we're heading to a third tie-in issue with SWORD number 4. Any parting thoughts on SWORD?
Can't believe there's 2 cliffhangers with Cable as Carnage. I can't believe you're
and
doing
like, we're not
twice.
there yet. Like we're still like approaching being there. We're not even there.
Oh God. I feel like Peter, you said it in the beginning of this episode, like this isn't a bad issue. This had good moments, but like it doesn't feel like we're getting the series that we were promised, because there's this other thing happening. And it's not even like it's bad. It's just that I don't even know how to feel about this series yet. The only silver lining I hope is, all these books seem to do very well, the X books. Maybe this one will have some room to express itself more instead of getting cut off early. That's like my weird paranoid fear with books sometimes. But I just want this to be done.
Well, that is all that we have to say about SWORD issue number 3. If you're looking for some chat about the other X-Men issues out this week, just look elsewhere on the channel, because we are going to talk about each one of them. And the reason we're talking about each one of them, the reason we get together every week, is because we really believe what, Fariha?
X-Men is better when it's read together.
That's right. And that's why we get together with each other to talk about these issues and to talk to you about them as well. So definitely comment below. Did you like it more than us, less than us? Did you find some hidden moments in it that we did not pick up on? We would love to know. And until we see you next time, we want to all wish you well. Take care.
Bye.